Conjugate Nation, Chapter 12, coming to you from Topsail Island in North Carolina. We finished out the week. I'm on vacation, so I'm making this video a little late, but here we go. We started off in Bethlehem with an upper body speed day. Me and Tyler worked with overhead press, get some reps in there for the speed. Then we moved into some reps for the bench press. We did some chain floor press here. Did 5 sets of 5 here with 185 and about 80 pound of chain. If you haven't already, do yourself a favor and go out and take a look at Louis Simmons' podcast. They offer a ton of knowledge, about sports, about powerlifting and Olympic lifting. I know he's catching a lot of slack for the Olympic lifting book he came out with, but he still has a ton of information. He's a wealth of knowledge. So I would have never came up with the 5x5 rep scheme, being that if you read anything online about his conjugate training, he never really talks too much about rep work in place of dynamic work. But on the podcast, I heard that he does. He sometimes waves that. So 5x5 or 8x5 or whatever you want to do, you're working 5s, 8s, or 10s. So here's Sammy. Sammy's trying to give a shot at the conjugate system. I gave him a bit of a template to go through. He's working with 160 for about 14 sets of 3, I think, or 16 sets of 3, then 4 set clusters. Sammy is a 400 plus pound bencher. He benches with a tight grip, so I think minimal changes to his training scheme will give some big increases in his numbers. So if he works a little bit of a wider bench and kind of targets his chest a little bit more, he is a raw lifter. But things like that, weight brings his stance out maybe in his sumo deadlift and tightens his hips up, builds up his glutes and his hips. I think that will carry over a lot more. So he's a bit of a test subject here, and he's definitely willing to give it his best shot. Here is Steve with his overhead day. He did say he wasn't happy with the filming angle here, but he does a good job driving his head up through, and especially on this last rep and finishing out strong. I think we're around should be around maybe 180-ish. Here is my speed day. This is 6 sets of 4 at 3. I think it was 345. Had some average bands on there. Felt good. Had a little attitude this morning. I don't know what it was. A lot of stress this summer for some odd reason, running back and forth with school and football and work. But here's my speed pulls. Louis is advocating going around 20 reps. I got it to 14 and I was gassed, so I did short rest period, so I'm going to build that up over an amount of time here. I do have a meet that I'm out about 3 weeks, but we're going to see how that goes moving forward, either now or after the meet. Here's Sammy with his speed day. He did 5x5 at about 260-ish, I believe, and then he moved into some speed pulls that he was gassed with. Wasn't the best, but he tried his hardest here. I was in North Carolina at that time. That is a decline bench. Everybody loves declining, so I hit about a 350-pound decline for a max single there. Being that I was in the car for about 9 hours, I didn't want to kill it too bad. And then Sammy maxed out on his max effort Friday with an overhead press of 225 pounds. Here he is working his sumo pull a little bit more. Like I said, he has to build his hips, his glutes, and his hamstrings. He's a very quad-dominant athlete. He has huge thighs, but he is lacking in the glute and the hamstring, and in the low back, I would say, because he has an injury history with his low back and deadlifting. So to be safer, pulling or sumo will, help you out, not put as much stress on that low back. Then he worked up to 365 on the yoke bar for a single. He could have went up from there. I know he went into a little bit, but it was a good quality work day. Here's Kyle on his Saturday. Did 315 for 2 on a close grip bench. Him and Steve met at Metro. I love public gyms. Those guys do too. Here he is squatting 405 with a man array. The man array puts the bar about an inch to an inch and a half over your spine. So, it's definitely a change of pace of what you're doing. I'm not sure why he is wearing sandals. When I asked him about it, he told me because he could. So that's Kyle for you. But it worked up there. Here's Steve with a 405, I believe it was, for a double. His back was fried up. He wasn't really happy with this Saturday's workout, but I was proud of him because he went home. He did some conditioning work. Here's a stone lift. He did 5x5 on the stone lift. Then he followed it up with some wheelbarrow pushes. Wheelbarrow pushers are great. It works your grip, it works your conditioning, it works your traps, and it's definitely a good way to mix things up a little bit. This is just in his backyard. Kyle has Slater stone makers. They're not Slater stone, but whatever, stone molds. And he has a bunch of them. He let one to Steve, and he got after it. Here I am at PCS, Port City Performance, down in, I believe this is Wilmington, North Carolina. They have a great facility. If you're in the area, I encourage you to go check it out. This is 500 or I'm going to say 520 something. It's a 65-pound bar. So that was my second to last set. And then we're moving into my top set here. This is around 575. It is a PR. I have my straps up, being that I'm 3 weeks out from the meet. I want to get used to pulling the straps up. I'm very happy with the way it went because I was out on the beach the entire day before. I'm covered in sunburn. You know, the diet hasn't been there. I've been eating whatever's in front of me. But then I moved into a top pool of 455 with some average bands. And I wanted to show you guys a little of a miss. So I took a big jump, but I should have known better. Here's a 505 miss. I'll come back and get it in the meet. Stay safe, stay strong.